More and more, the decisions made by the central banks of the world are impacting day-to-day people on the streets. We are taking out more and more loans for all sorts of stuff, from credit cards down to cell phones, down to cars. Loans are happening on all sorts of things, and the interest rates changing and being changed by banks is impacting all of us. So we're going to take a little bit of a chuckle at the expense of central banks as we learn more about what's going on out there too. At the same time, we're going to be jumping into some of these memes from Wall Street Silver as well as other sources. Let's jump right into it. Memes are from Wall Street Silver's Twitter feed or their Reddit page. That is where the best memes come from that are anti-establishment, honestly. Banks on fire. And Jerome Powell, of course, head of the Federal Reserve. Hey, I'm hiking interest rates here. As if that's not what's causing the fire, right? This news article on Financial Times, PacWest, or Pacific Western Bank, secures $1.4 billion of cash. They're basically taking out loans in order to get this cash from Atlas after their deposits fall 20%. 20% of the assets on their books have been withdrawn by depositors. That is a massive bank run. And yet they've been able to secure enough cash to kind of hold up under it, but that's just kind of showing you kind of what's going on from bank to bank. There are a lot of banks under tremendous pressure right now, and if they can't get the cash, what's going to happen? Capital One, their credit default swaps. These are basically like insurance policies, or basically people gambling that that Capital One will default on their bonds that they borrowed money, right? Their default swaps are surging faster than the global predicaments of early 2020, right? Surging faster than the cough cough. The banking crisis is far from over. My son adding a zero there. Yeah, apparently he does kind of understand how banks work. Just gonna issue some more currency here. If the banks can do it, why can't I do it? Friends, if you're seeing kind of how the banking system is going and you are worried about your retirement funds, if you have an IRA, 401k, and you are concerned about it being in stocks, bonds, risky assets, and you want to go over to physical gold, physical silver, something solid, some coins that are actually belonging to you, you might want to talk to Genesis Gold Group. Jonathan and his team do a fantastic job. A lot of you have already talked to them and moved some of your assets over, and I've heard from a bunch of you about how great of a job that they do with that. They'll answer your questions and help you along the way, a Christian organization. This is from Frederick Bastiat. When plunder becomes a way of life for a group of men in a society, over the course of time, they create for themselves a legal system that authorizes it and a moral code that glorifies it. When plunder, yeah. French elites really forgot what happened last time they tried these tactics, didn't they? From now on, the protests on the Parliament grounds are banned. Sure, Emmanuel. Let's get you to your guillotine. That's what's going on in France. They just banned protests because there are protests. You can't have protests. But they said it's not a bailout. Switzerland's emergency rescue of Credit Suisse could cost $13,500 for each and every Swiss person. And that's not too far off from what we're seeing happening in the United States too. These massive bailouts. Where's that money coming from? And then people are like, well, where's this inflation coming from? Why is this happening? Friends, you can't just print trillions and trillions of dollars out of thin air and have it not impact the currency. Remember, we're also at a maxed out debt ceiling of $31.4 trillion, right? We're at the debt ceiling, and the Congress has refused to raise the debt ceiling, and yet we still have all these government officials out there promising ridiculous amounts of money. Treasury officials exploring ways to temporarily insure all of bank deposits. Do they have funding for this? Of course they don't have funding for this. They don't have any money for this. They don't have any money to keep the government operating. Where are they going to just come up with a blank check for this? Yellen, the Treasury Secretary, who used to be the Federal Reserve Chairman, Wall Street Silver saying, breaking, due to protesters blocking key locations, fuel shortages are escalating across France. Almost 1,650 stations are currently out of gas and diesel. Fuel shortages. And there you can see it on the map. All those orange, all the dark orange things are no fuel. All the light yellow ones have fuel, but dark orange, no fuel. And this is spreading across France because they're not letting the refineries work. They're not letting fuel through. 5-year-old. I wish I had infinity dollars to give people. Me, that would wreck the economy. Federal Reserve. Oops. Oops. Man struggling to feed family, just glad he could help bail out a bank. Hopefully you all are happy that you got to help bail out some of these banks recently because, you know, the poor, not starving, but poor bankers. Oh, poor them. They might have to actually start turning in their Rolex watches and start turning in their Lamborghinis. I mean, we can't have that. Everyone else needs to chip in and make sure that through inflation we all pay for these bank bailouts. More about credit default swaps. So we just saw Capital One default swaps going vertical, and look, UBS credit default swaps going vertical. Now, UBS is the one who just bought up Credit Suisse, and so everyone's there like, yeah, so UBS might be crashing soon. So with the price of the swaps going up, that basically means that the insurance rates are costing more and more. People are afraid it's going to collapse. Also from Wall Street Silver, flashback, Credit Suisse passed stress test 9 months ago. I guess these stress tests were all just part of the show. So 9 months ago, Credit Suisse passed a stress test, and now we see European banks are acing U.S. Fed stress tests. Oh, wow, how wonderful. They must all be safe. All must be secure. So just put your money in, give your money to the bankers, and don't you worry. They're gonna take care of you. Quote unquote, take care of you, right? For people who think banks are fine, this is unrealized losses on investments. So basically, as the stock market has declined last year, these banks have all these stocks that they bought for a lot higher than what they are now, but until they actually sell those stocks, they don't have to book those losses. They don't have to claim that those losses, because they could still be waiting for those stocks to go back up in value. So they have over $700 billion worth of losses. Other numbers are pointing at more to the tune of $2 trillion worth of losses. It's hard to keep my numbers straight when we get to such large numbers here. But some have speculated that when you add in not just stocks, but you add in failed investments in new businesses that aren't publicly traded, you're looking at $2 trillion worth of losses that they haven't claimed, that they're still pretending they haven't lost. Bank failures over time. So that big bubble right there on the center of your screen, Washington Mutual Bank and all those other banks, that was around the 2008 crisis, right? These are the bank failures. But just starting in 2023, we got two big banks, Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank, and there are more actually about to burst on the scene, but you can just see that this is big stuff. We're talking about, we're starting off with a big bang here, and we're going to be seeing more and more big defaults of the size that we've never seen before. Deutsche Bank is on the verge of collapse itself. As of this week, the average used auto loan rate is over 14%. We haven't seen these numbers in decades. So if you want to go out and borrow for a used car, you're going to be looking on average at 14%. And what they've been doing is they've been snowballing people's loans. They haven't finished paying off the loan for the previous used car. They're coming in and they're asking for another loan that will cover not just the old loan, but the new loan. So they're borrowing more money than the car is worth up front. So how do you repossess a car when the loan is more? That's the predicament banks are in right now. They have loans out with no collateral. We're talking billions of dollars. And this is a question we've all been kind of asking. So if you guys know where this book is, why aren't American tax dollars for Americans? That's a good book that would be, hopefully pretty short, but it's probably pretty complicated, full of politicians' lies. So, guess who just borrowed nearly $500 billion in just 2 weeks? And if you answered all commercial banks, you would be right. They just borrowed nearly $500 billion in just 2 weeks. $500 billion, sorry. That's a lot of money. They're trying to shore up their reserves really fast, and this is what's happening, and the Federal Reserve is printing money like it's going out of style, throwing money at these banks in order to keep them solvent, because if they go down, if the peripheral banks go down, the central bank will certainly go down. Friends, if you have things that you see out there on the internet that need to be shared, you can always email me directly at poplarpreparedness@gmail.com. I do read all those emails. I try to respond to as many as I can, but I do read them all. And thank you so much for watching. There's another video right on the screen. You might want to check that one out. I'll see you over there, or I'll see you later. Steve Poplar of the Poplar Report out.